Hey, today I'm talking about 3 movies featuring Harold Perrineau. Why am I doing that? Good question. If you're unfamiliar, he used to be one of the main actors on the hit ABC TV show Lost. Now, why do I bring that up? Another good question. Well, the reason is some friends of mine from college have a podcast where they watch episodes of Lost out of order. It's called Lost on Lost. And I was recently on an episode. So this is like the whole cross-promotional thing. So yeah, give that podcast a listen. Or if you're from that podcast, hi, welcome to the channel. This is how I talk here. I know it's a little different. I can't control that, it just happens. Anyway, the names of the 3 films that I am talking about today are The Best Man, Romeo plus Juliet, and King of New York. What this up is The Best Man. This is a 1999 film, and the basic premise is it is the long weekend up until when this wedding is taking place. And so it's basically just like a big reunion between like a whole bunch of old college friends. It's been close to a decade since they were all together, and they've all kind of gone their separate paths. So it's really just about like the different relationship-y drama that's happening between them. Like, ooh, is the duo that everyone thought was gonna hook up in college but almost did but didn't, are they gonna hook up now even though one of them is in a relationship? What's gonna happen? Type of thing. But it's actually pretty dang great. First off, they do a good job with they set up the premise well, but then I wouldn't say gave it a twist, but it took an unexpected turn going into the second act that honestly really elevated the whole thing. Like, that premise is fine, but it's been done a lot. But then the way they change it is interesting and good and makes a lot of unexpected drama that I was all for. Secondly, they did a very, very good job of establishing everyone's character and having them be very unique people. Like, it's a decent sized cast, but everyone looks different, sounds different, acts different, has very unique, different stories going on. And anytime there's like a decent big size cast, writers can struggle to really make all of them stand on their own. But the writer here really, really nailed it. I was really impressed with that. I do think everyone gave very solid performances too. I was very happy with the ending. It was just an all-around very solid experience. My main complaint is more so a product of its time, and that is that there is some very casual misogyny in this film. It's not at the forefront of it, but it kind of struck a really bad chord with me when it happened. It's one character in particular, and they do kind of talk about it and deal with it, but not in a way that made me okay that it had the casual misogyny. So that did bring the movie down a bit, but not a ton. So yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot, and I would totally recommend it. I do think the misogyny is not great, but I think the rest of the film is solid enough that it's kind of fine to just put it to the side and enjoy the rest of the experience. Next up is Romeo plus Juliet. This is a 1996 movie, and it is something else. So I knew this movie was ridiculous going into it, but man, did I underestimate the absurdity of this film. If you're unfamiliar, it's the story of Romeo and Juliet, with the twist being it's kind of set in 90s California, but like a hyper real life version, but everyone's still talking Shakespearean. Now, this movie is balls to the walls, ridiculous, crazy, absurd. And I actually love that aspect of this movie. It knows what style it wants to be, and it goes for it so incredibly hard that it's hard to not just appreciate how hard they went for it. Unfortunately though, I lost interest in the film at about the hour mark, so about the halfway point. There's a few different reasons why, but I think part of it has to do with the absurd style of the film, in that I think by that point of the movie, the novelty had worn off, and they didn't do anything to truly pivot at that point to kind of reignite the excitement of the beginning of the movie. They needed like a bigger style shift at the halfway point. But really what I think is the detriment of this movie is also why it did so well, and that's its 2 leads. actors. In particular, Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, Leonardo DiCaprio is a good actor, there's no denying that. But he's 21 here, and this is Shakespeare. Now, not everyone can do Shakespeare, period, and not everyone can do Shakespeare well. It takes a different kind of acting muscle to do. Unfortunately, the two leads can't. In particular, Leo. Leo was just hired because he's really hot. And spoilers, he is really hot in this movie. That's exactly why this movie did really well. He does a great job of being hot. Good job, 21-year-old Leo. He doesn't have the X factor when it comes to doing Shakespeare stuff, though. An actor who does, and that I would praise up and down, is actually Harold. Harold frickin' nails it. He plays Mercutio. He also does a good job of working with the absurd style of the film in a way that kind of grounds it, because he just sort of accepts it as the absurdity is life and I am doing this. So yeah, because our leads weren't good at what they needed to be good at, they weren't good at Shakespeare, and the movie fails because of it. I mean, it's still fine. I still liked it. And if you're a Shakespearean person, I would recommend it. But if you're not a Shakespearean person, I wouldn't recommend it. You're not going to get a lot out of this movie. I mean, besides Leo being hot, but like there's so many other movies you can see Leo being hot. You don't need to watch this one. It's not worth your time. And lastly is King of New York. This is a 1990 film starring Christopher Walken, and it's fine. The basic premise is Christopher Walken plays this drug lord guy who just got out of prison, and he's trying to bring back together his kingdom, but the police are doing the police stuff. What I would say this movie does really well is its style and its atmosphere. Its main falter is that it's a bit boring, it's too slow, it spent too much time being like, here's our world. So like long sequences of attractive women dancing or just like slow, moody stuff. And it's like, they were doing that to establish the atmosphere, but they spent too much time there. They needed to do more stuff with plot and character development instead of just being like, we're all moody and stuff. Isn't that cool? Don't get me wrong though, I still enjoyed this movie. And in particular, I really loved Lawrence Fishburne's performance. His character is fully realized. They're ridiculous and over the top, but like it works in a very grounded way, to the point of like his character is the most interesting character. Like Christopher Walken is fine, he's good, but his character doesn't do a whole lot. He's kind of just boring. And I really feel that the story should have actually focused on just Lawrence Fishburne's character. They should have just pivoted to his character as the central focus, and the movie would have been a lot better for it. Probably could have even kept the story more or less the same. And really, even though I thought this movie was fine, I'm glad I watched it literally just for Lawrence Fishburne's performance. Like, it's that good that it makes it worthwhile. So yeah, I would recommend it just based on Lawrence Fishburne's performance. This isn't a great movie, it's a fine movie, but he makes it worthwhile, honestly. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got The Best Man sitting number 58 in the quite like section. And then after that is Romeo plus Juliet sitting number 94 in the liked section. And then bringing up the rear, not too terribly far behind, is King of New York sitting at number 108, also in the like section. And this is out of a total of 135 old movies so far this year. Before I let you go, I just want to quickly talk again about the podcast that I was on. Look at that beautiful poster for it. So again, the basic premise of their podcast, Lost on Lost, is they are watching the entire series of Lost out of order. One of them has seen the show before, the other one hasn't. I think they're about halfway through the entire show. For background for me, a decade ago, I had seen the pilot, and a friend of mine explained what happened in the last season to me. And now I've seen the episode we talk about in this episode, which is season 2, episode 2, Adrift. And spoilers, it was not a good episode. I really didn't enjoy it. The episode primarily focuses on Harold's character, and it's a black stereotype, and it's just kind of really racist. After we recorded the episode, but before I recorded this episode, there was some news that broke about how there was some racist stuff that did happen on set from the perspective perspective of like the writers to the characters. Like a lot of the non-white actors noticed that their characters were just getting pushed to the side and all of the white characters were getting all of the good stories and interesting stories. It was Harold who even said, hey, give me something better to do, or why am I here? And they're like, right, why are you here? And so they let him go. And yeah, just based off of this one episode of his really bad story, I totally understand his entire emotions with this show. Anyway, if you want to hear more of my thoughts and the other guys' thoughts, we go real in depth with literally every single scene of the episode. It's a lot, but it's good, I think. I haven't listened to it yet, so I'm just assuming. It was a fun experience recording it. So yeah, give that a listen. And if you're new here from there, hi, I hope you enjoyed this experience. I don't always get this long-winded, but it happens.